Hey guys, welcome back to Hike Oregon. We are here at the Moss Springs Trailhead and we are in the Wallowas, Eagle Cap Wilderness. We are on plan like C or D. It's been a rough go getting here and there is definitely more snow than we expected in the Wallowas. I mean, I've only been here, this is my third time, so I'm not super familiar with the Wallowas. I guess this time of year it's typical to have still a lot of snow. So our plan A didn't pan out, so I had to reroute, and then we ended up not being able to go to that trailhead yesterday because there was a locked gate, and so then we rerouted again. We found a nice loop. There are some potential obstacles as well on this loop, so we'll see. But yeah, we spent the night at the trailhead last night, and now it's 8:30. We're ready to hit the trail. I am not loving the size and weight of my backpack. I tell ya, it's a beast. Whew. But yeah, should be right around between 50 and 60 miles, I guess, depending on some obstacles that we may come across, potential river crossing and snow. So we'll see, but we have contingency plans for all of our routes. So it's kind of been crazy. So it should be fun. Super excited. We'll be out here for the next 4 days. And I'll catch you on the trail. So we started off at the Moss Springs Campground trailhead, and we went down trail 1942, and it lost some elevation. It was a pretty good trail, had just a few little blowdowns, and then we got to this junction. So we have a trail split here, but there's no signage. All we see is a rock pile. Thank God there's this rock cairn, because that really, I mean, kind of just looks like a game trail a little bit. So we're gonna hope it's the right trail and go for it. After climbing uphill through the forest for a little bit, the trail spat us out onto the most beautiful wildflower meadows, and to the west we could see the Elkhorn mountain range, and it was absolutely stunning, and we really loved this part of the hike. After zigzagging and meandering through the wildflower meadows, we gained more and more elevation, and at one point we got to this very swampy meadow. The snow had probably just melted, and we absolutely lost the trail, couldn't find it anywhere. And unfortunately, Gaia didn't show the trail, so we couldn't actually see where we were going. This is kind of where we lost it. The only thing we could see on Gaia was Mud Spring, and we knew that the trail went to Mud Spring, and that's also where we were going to get water. So we just kind of beelined it and used Gaia as navigation. As you can see here, this hillside, these aren't trails. These are like water areas where water runs down the hillside. We just kind of followed some of those up the hillside and finally arrived at Mud Spring, and luckily it was not full of mud. So we lost the trail for a bit and weren't sure if the spring was going to have water, because the whole hillside we've been on that was supposed to have creeks was dry. Luckily we have water, which is so exciting. We're not positive that our camp has water because it's like tiny seasonal creeks. So we're carrying water. We filled up here and we're carrying, I'm carrying 5.5 liters. So I have strapped my Knock Vecto, 3-liter Knock Vecto onto here. I made kind of like a little bed for it to sleep on, and then it's attached to my backpack. So that should be good. Even if it like dribbles a little bit, at least it won't get anything in my backpack wet. And then both of my water bottles are full as well. So we are excited. We lost the trail for a while, but we found it again, thank God. And there it goes into the forest. And we're gonna go up to a ridge now. From the ridge, the hiking should get quite a bit easier. It's been a tough day so far. From Mud Spring, there was a very nice visible trail all the way to the Jim White Trail junction, and here we thought that the trail was going to be just a little bit better. Unfortunately, this was not the case. More often than not, there was no trail. So it was quite cumbersome. The mileage took us a long time, and we had to deal with some snow on the ridge as well. The scenery was absolutely beautiful on the Jim White Ridge. It was gorgeous, but we were a little bit stressed. Also, weren't quite sure if there was going to be camping. Camping was depicted on our paper map, but finally we did arrive at our campsite, and we were so happy we could have cried. Overall, the day was very hard. And after this day and this crazy terrain and crazy trail, we decided to do a different type of hike. The next day, we hiked from our campsite down to the main Horse Ranch Trail. The Horse Ranch Trail, after this Jim White Ridge Trail, was so well maintained. We had 0 blowdowns for the rest of the way, all the way to where we cut over to Minam Lodge. So we took a little detour over to Minam River Lodge because we wanted to ask the people that worked there about the nearby trails, just because of what we had experienced the last day. And we wanted to make sure we weren't getting into any more of those crazy situations where the trail is just not to be found. The head chef at Minam River Lodge was so wonderful and so nice, and he basically told us that our current plan was pretty good going up to the Stanley cabin, so we decided just to do that instead of do this other loop we had planned, just because, again, it's early season, the trails haven't been maintained. Apparently Jim White Ridge Trail, the trail we had been on, hasn't been maintained in years and years. So that's why we were having such a hard time navigating and actually finding the trail, because no one really uses it and it doesn't get maintained. After visiting the lodge, we just crossed the Minam River and we camped at the river, and just downriver we had a lovely little swimming spot where we played in the water for the rest of the day. It is like 97 degrees out here, and we made camp early because it's so hot and there's no point in continuing to hike. But we're on the Minam River, so beautiful, and we are cooling down, about to get some water and make some lemonade with some cold water. Should be splendid. There's like a nice sandy beach here. It's really an awesome spot, and like a tree for shade. But yeah, it is devilish hot. Just crazy warm. So we're taking it easy for today. We hiked pretty short miles. I think actually not that short, 8 miles, and a ton of elevation loss, which is actually really hard. So yeah, we're gonna just rest for the rest of the afternoon and try to chill out. Okay, so we are here. Thank God we set up camp, because this is moving in and we can smell rain and hear thunder, but we're all set up, ready to enjoy the storm from our tents. That's a little cabin over there from the ranch we're near. And this is the Minam River. We were pronouncing it wrong. Apparently it's Minam, not Minam. So that's a beautiful bridge that we crossed earlier, and over there is blue sky. Yeah, we have a great campsite to enjoy the storm from. On day 3, we made our way up the Minam River Trail and hit our junction up to Stanley Cabin. This was gnarly. We gained 3,700 feet elevation, I think. It was absolutely crazy, but so beautiful. I mean, the views were just stunning. The wildflowers were stunning. Stanley Cabin sat in this field of yellow flowers. I mean, it didn't get any more picturesque. We were originally going to camp at Stanley Cabin. However, the snow there had just melted around the cabin and there were still actually huge snow berms nearby. So there was a lot of melting snow. The bugs were absolutely insane. So after spending a few hours eating lunch there and looking around at Stanley Cabin, we decided not to camp there just because everything was super swampy and the bugs were horrendous. So we decided to go back down the trail a little bit to this junction where we had seen a beautiful flat camping spot among the trees, and it was actually just downhill from this gorgeous spot where we went up to watch the sunset across the Wallowas and the elkhorns and the wildflowers and the sunset. It was one of the most beautiful things I have ever witnessed, and definitely my favorite part of the entire excursion. Day 4 was a little bit long, so we got an early start to kind of beat the heat. The days in the Wallowas in July, man, they were really hot, and even at elevation, they were really hot. So we were getting up at like 4:30 just to beat the heat and made our way down the 3,700 feet elevation hill basically and went all the way back down to the Minam River Trail, back across the bridge, and back down the Horse Ranch Trail. We were gonna camp at this junction here where there was a beautiful camp spot, but decided to keep going because it was only like 1 o'clock and didn't really feel like stopping for the day, and it would make our next day a lot shorter. So we camped at this beautiful spot along the creek and just enjoyed the creek a little bit, relaxed, and then had dinner and enjoyed our last night of the trip. Okay, tell me if anyone else does this when they backpack. We are pretty tight on food. All I have left is a bar and my breakfast, my coffee and my oatmeal. That's all. Granted, we only have just over 2 miles left to go before the trailhead, so just right on. Does anyone else pack this tight food, or do you pack like a lot of extra stuff? Comment below. Day 5 was really short. We basically just hiked over 2 miles from our campsite up the hill back to Moss Springs Campground. The wildflowers, as usual, were absolutely gorgeous. I enjoyed witnessing so many different bright colors along the trail. It made everything so much more interesting and beautiful to look at. And then we arrived at the trailhead. My car was still there and everything was great. We were happy to have made it, and we went back to La Grande and had a little second breakfast and then drove home. Thank you so much for watching this vlog from my Wallowas trip. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer them. Again, I don't recommend the Jim White Ridge Trail. The only thing I recommend from this excursion would be to start at Moss Springs, go down the Horse Ranch Trail all the way, either to Minam River or the lodge if you want to, glamp basically, if you want to eat good food and stay at the lodge, or just go up to Stanley Cabin. Highly recommend. You could make that trip from Moss Springs to Minam River. You could spend the night, and then Minam to Stanley, and then Stanley back to Minam, Minam back. So that would be a 4-night trip right then and there, and it's absolutely stunning. Little to no people. We actually didn't see any other backpackers the entire time except day 4. So definitely more remote than the other parts of the Wallowas. So thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next adventure.